How can we make marketing or advertising, or this area, we can make this tool to actually help the projects or help the world, not about selling stuff that you don't need and extractive, but it's like how can we develop tools and frameworks and messaging that could help the regenerative movement and sell it to companies as well. Like, hey, you don't need to
apply these tactics anymore.
You can do this way, you can do that way.
Nice. Alternative models.
Exactly.
So cool.
So that's something they've been working on and create a whole framework and stuff that probably going to launch in April or something.
Oh man,
that's
really excited. Yo, what is good, ReFi fam? I am so incredibly grateful to bring an episode with my good friend Rica Amaral. He is a pioneer in the positive impact space, looking at using blockchain to finance social and ecological justice for many years, dating back to 2017. Rica has recently launched a new podcast called Planta-R or Planta-R, depending upon where you're coming from in the world. It's a Portuguese show sowing seeds of regeneration in the Portuguese-speaking world, speaking with predominantly female leaders who are pioneering the regenerative economy in their local industry, using the power of Web3 and other decentralized technologies. In today's episode, we get a chance to glimpse into Rica's unique perspective, having been a part of this movement before it was even called ReFi. We hear about some of the key learnings and insights as he's spoken to people like Suzanne from Impact Market and Jimos from Sylvie Protocol, and give a little bit of an overview of those who are interested in the unique contributions that the Portuguese-speaking world is making to this global movement of regeneration. Hope you enjoy the show, and please do give us a 5-star review if you feel compelled. Every single one counts. Thanks for your time, and let us know what you think. Rica, bro, I miss you, man. It's so good to be with you. It feels like it's been ages. Yes. And yeah, man, I'm so excited to see your show out in the wild after all these months. How does it feel?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm so glad to be here as well. I'm feeling really good actually to have finally the show out. It's really nice also the reception that I got from people and it's been quite a journey and a good one.
Amazing. Well, for those who haven't had a chance to listen to your show or aren't Portuguese native, I'd love for you to just introduce yourself, share a little bit about who you are and what is the show Planta-R, what's the concept behind it, and what can people expect listening in?
I'm Rica. Yeah, and then I come from Brazil, but I've been living outside for quite a while. Living in Berlin for 14 years, where I came from advertising and moved away from it because I didn't wanna be the people I was working with in the future, in advertising. I was like, okay, I need something else for myself.
This is not me.
That's definitely not me. and I needed I always wanted to do something that's more meaningful for me, and not only for me but for everything else, and work with art a lot. When I moved to Berlin, lived in Berlin for quite a while, where work with a collective of artists doing art as an experience, create a project where we connect artists, young artists, to help them thrive in the city, had a bar and everything, and where there is a project also that is related to, create a Tinder for sponsorship, where we leverage the power of big, powerful brands and events to local ones.
Cool.
And it was really cool, yeah. And then I went to the impact thing when I went to Paris to study design for social impact.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was in Paris. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I was in Paris, and I was there, and there was by chance, there was another course next to me. They were doing a workshop on how to use blockchain to make art. This was 2017.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Dude, this was way back in the day.
Yes.
You're an OG, man.
And I was like, oh, what? What is that? I want to see it. And then I was like, whoa, what is this? And I was like, and I got really, 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 I would say focus on that. Not focus, completely I want to work with this, I want to do this, work my thesis on it about how to create ethical blockchain, for example.
Okay.
And that's how I came to the whole impact, or blockchain for impact in the whole sense. So that's a little bit about me, and we can go to the projects I did afterwards as an NGO that we where we launched or we co-founded in 2018 called Positive Blockchain, and exists until now one of the biggest database of impact projects out there that we work with universities, organizations, and still now today. So cool. And as a Portuguese-speaking, or and being working with so many people for so many places, also in Berlin was a very, melting pot of cultures as well. And I always thought that, like when everything is in English, you kind of like miss a little bit other people's point of views. Or totally right. And as we are here in Portugal, we ReFi Lisboa, right? Yes. And the idea of the podcast came from ReFi DAO and you, and talking with you as well about how let's do something in Portuguese as we are here, and then like there's so many projects happening in Brazil, Mozambique, or Cape Verde, Portugal. All these Portuguese-speaking projects that we can tap into and give the stage, and that's how Planta-R came to be. Amazing. Or Planta-R, depends on how people want to read it. Yeah. It's really about telling stories of regeneration in Portuguese-speaking countries, right? And how can we help them to foster this movement in their own language with people who don't speak English or don't speak another English.
So cool.
And the name Planta-R or Planta-R come from this, like planting little seeds of stories, in people's mind. Even because one thing that I realized also, because we don't see so many content in Portuguese, for example, in this, there's a lot of people don't understand what regeneration means, or what ReFi is, and how actually it's not charity, that you can also do things and still make money and still develop things in a different way. And that's the idea. And then the play with the name is also Planta. Also in Portuguese means blueprint. So that's why Blueprint-R is like blueprint regeneration.
Nice. So, I like that one. That's awesome.
So that's why I prefer the word Planta-R, but I let people decide how they want to read
blueprint regeneration. That's sick. I love it. It's a good play on words, man.
Yeah, so that's how it came to be. So we've been talk to a lot of people, interesting people as well. Giving chance for Native Americans projects to talk to the Black community. They have really nice projects also, and like a lot of nice projects here in Portugal as well. So it's quite a ride.
Yeah, man. And what are some of the stories and people that really surfaced to the top? Obviously, you've recorded quite a few episodes, and you've had a chance to kind of dig under the surface of this movement, regeneration in the Portuguese-speaking world. Is anything really coming up and sprouting to mind?
I think one of the main things was when I was talking to Bia, and she said that the power of language, and I think this is very important.
Bia Fonseca, from TDF. Cool.
Exactly. She was saying how nice it is to have something in Portuguese, how important it is to have the power of language in a sense that regeneration is all about the connection to the space, to the location you are, to its story, to its traditions, and language is a big part of it. It's a main part of it. And then when you connect to the language, you connect to its story, to the location story, to location traditions and culture and spirit in a sense.
Yeah, totally.
And so this was something that was really nice, because it was really the idea about it. So when she said it without me giving any prompt, she really say it from herself. It was really, really nice to hear. But also I was talking to Luis Haddad, and he told me, so Carol, I haven't made an episode with her yet, but I will. She's on
she's on the list.
Yeah, she's on the list, and how nice it is. They started this project. Also, Hiki told me about her. The two people told me about her actually, and they had this project called Play for Change in Brazil. It's really teaching people about blockchain, how to make money in blockchain in favelas, and then this person, Carol, she got really interested in it. She really learned and start searching or looking for what she wanted. So she decided, okay, this is something that I really want. And she grew so much that she's invited now to speak in conferences. And she created her own project now as well. So these kind of like little stories that I really think that it's really nice to see how little things that you do that you don't realize how big they are for some people, you know? And I always say that, the small projects normally are the ones that have the most impact, you know? There's more local and small projects are the ones that have the most impact. And you see these beautiful stories as well. Also, Suzanne, she's sort of like how, how it's important to give the chance for people to break the cycle of poverty.
A rock star.
She's a rock star, and the way she was able to, to also go after she wanted and get out of a cycle that she said, of poverty that she was inside, is also really powerful. So those
and now working at Impact Market to alleviate poverty globally, worldwide.
Yeah, she's the CMO of Impact Market,
with such humility and grace.
Exactly. So
beautiful.
So these little things that these little stories that come up to me because of the stories that you see. Okay, that's the change that this can make, and that's what we do, and it's important to foster and to be there and to show people that another way is possible.
I absolutely love this. Kind of going back to what Bia from TDF said. We heard from Sam, who's one of the co-founders at TDF, and you've spoken to Bia in Portuguese, and seeing a single project from very, very different perspectives and vantage points. And for me, I had this intuition and hypothesis that the ReFi movement as a whole really needed to be anchored in local cultures, communities, historical contexts, and ways of living on the earth that have, transpired for millennia, but we've kind of lost and forgotten about. And I think it's fascinating, the simple act of conversing in a local language that is, more vibrant and full of emotion, and the story of the human self that comes from this place, I think is a really integral part of the story of regeneration, because it's not really one story. It's a lot of stories woven together, similar to how a rainforest ecosystem works. There's all of these different contributing parts pulling carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere and releasing oxygen into the air, and every organism is an instrument in this beautiful unfolding symphony. And I think it's so easy to get lost in kind of a monoculture view, which is really what we see in many crypto conferences today, of a predominantly white male-led kind of technocentric way of seeing this place and the solutions that we're arriving in. So I'm curious, what the sort of solutions that you've seen or the approaches to regeneration in the Portuguese-speaking world, and how this differs to what we would otherwise see kind of on the main track. Is there anything in particular that really stands out to you in terms of just the work that people are doing or the values they hold, and really the key part that this Portuguese culture is offering to the movement?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because I think the things that I sing the most is about community, how can empower communities, because of course, if you're talking about Portugal, it's a bit different, but in Brazil you have a very big gap, and people really need support to move on or move forward, let's put it this way. So I think that's the power of community, and how can we empower also traditional communities that may not be connected to our society, West society. How can we empower them without bringing them in, or or bringing them in if they want to. It's also their decision if they want to do. And all the projects that I talked so far was really about how to empower people to be the best they can, or to create new systems where they live, and to break through or break away. Can you say that? From from cycles that don't work for them so much, and I think that and it's like, because they're local people, doing things for their own community. You know, and I think
100%.
that's what's important.
That sense of agency.
Exactly.
That, yes, the tools are
Exactly.
here. We can solve these problems
Exactly.
ourselves. We don't need to rely on these archaic old institutions that have a systemic bias against actually solving these problems.
Exactly.
Let's start doing some things ourselves and really do this in a very relational way. I think that's something that I'm hearing is not just the community of people together, but also the relationships between them and, you know, the identity that is born out of an intricate web of social interactions that allow us to know that, yeah, we're safe. Even maybe that we don't have the same levels of economic prosperity per se, but actually there's a depth of wealth in this place, in these communities, in these cultures. And it's about learning really to value this in a different way, because our society seems to have lost really the intrinsic value of relating to people from a really deep and emotional and known place of love.
Yeah, and it's about like showing, you know, it's not telling them what to do. You know, I think it's really important because sometimes I see some projects that come, and that's one of the things that bothers me sometimes also in the ReFi space when you see like, you know, all these ReFi projects, they are all expats. There's no one from the place where they are, and they're just telling people what to do, you know, and not listening to what actually they need. And then I think it's really nice because this project is always about, okay, even if I'm not from there, I'm not going to tell you what to do. I tell you what's possible, and you decide what to do.
100%.
And I think this is very important for us to think about because, you know, that's. I think that's what, you know, regeneration, you know, always say like it starts within, but it's the connection with the place as well that's very important. And it's history, as I said before, you know, it's culture. And all these projects that I talked to now was really about, you know, giving the tools for people to thrive the way they want to thrive, you know, and they to do what they want to do. And I think that's a really powerful and important thing to do.
Hell yeah, man. So cool. Well, I'd love to rewind a little bit. It feels quite interesting to me that you were in the positive blockchain space as a co-founder of Positive Blockchain before ReFi was a term. How have you seen this movement evolve, and what are kind of some of the interesting trends or learnings that you've had, and maybe even some of the frustrations or criticisms that you have to offer positively towards the space? Just curious to get your take on the trajectory and where it's headed and all of that.
I mean, the positive blockchain started because it was like a group of people that were already impact inclined, and they were worked already or were working already with blockchain, and we had this view of, okay, technology is really a neutral force, right?
Yes.
What we do with
So
it,
agree with this.
that's you know, there's no bad technology or good technology.
It's according to our intention, really.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, it's a tool.
So the idea of positive blockchain is like, okay, how can we foster the intention that we want to? You know, create a community to, you know, give a stage for projects that are working this way. Hey, something is possible. At the same time, connect people to help each other, right? And I remember when we started, it was really something really new. You know, like no one was really talking about. In 2018, back then, about, you know, positive impact of blockchain, what you can work with, you know, like what can you do to make, you know, the world better or something. Of course, there was, you know, the idea of, you know, decentralization was there still, you know, kind of like cutting some middlemen and etc. But like the actual usage, so mainly back then was really like carbon credits or supply chain stuff, like very that is very basic, right? Or basic, not basic, but very like that was the main things that we could see back then a little bit, no, a lot. So back then it was really small. So I remember we like going to events or talking to people like, what? It's like, what is it? No, it's like, no, the people that were like they had another focus, I guess. And even I remember, because even like when I was studying like design for social impact, it was the same time. People like, design for social impact? What?
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, it was a new term.
Even design.
Yeah, like, you know, like design for social impact. So what does that mean?
Yeah.
You know? And I think there was like a moment there to also a curve, also like teaching people what that mean. And I think the problem is also people confuse social impact projects or environmental impact projects with charity, right? And a lot of people don't want to participate, and I see that as well. Like every time, I think now it's a bit less, but like back then it's like really like, oh, I don't want to do charity, you know, I don't want to work with charity, and it's like, no, it's not about charity. You can do social business, you know, that is still business, you still make money, it's still you're not gonna be a billionaire,
right?
by the way, shouldn't exist. And but you can still have a comfortable life. Doing there's plenty of it. And then so that's the thing that one of the things, the first things I learned is like this. How can we frame this in a way that people see that it's not charity? I think it is very important. And also, and then of course there comes, the problem is also, let's say, like what things that I see. Sometimes I see that it's also a bubble, right? So it's not every big event there is. If you go to the big events, if you go to the impact part, it's a very small bubble, and you always see the same people, like, to be honest. Of course. Like, FCC, every time I go, it's kind of like the same kind of people, that I see. And it's nice because I see these people once a year, maybe, like sometimes, and, but I would like to see this more in a streamline in everything, because everything can have some sort of impact, or this mindset, it doesn't need to be something specific for a certain group of people.
Sure.
That sometimes I feel like, but it's also because I hear a lot of people say that also ReFi or this impact is a big kumbaya, people are like,
it is a little kumbaya.
Well, it's like, because I think people think that, because if you meditate, if you do some things with intention and you stop a little bit to breathe, it's too much. You're kind of cult or something like that. I heard that already also. And it's not, it's like, no one's obligated to do anything. And anyway, it's so for these years, I think it's I see more, projects and more people think about how to, integrate impact projects or impact concepts and views to what they are doing. I would like to see more, but I also see that as I know it's much more than before, so it's already I like to see it as a progress. So it's
totally.
And I think it's a when people see that even with that they can make money, that is not charity. There's not only kumbaya, people dancing,
100%.
Dance with pineapples that they already say to me.
Pineapples are nice,
right?
I like pineapples.
Me too. I love pineapples. Actually, the best juice is pineapple with watermelon, by the way. and yeah, so it's and I even forgot what I was saying.
Well, just saying that, as people are beginning to integrate impact models into their core business.
And it's not only just because I remember, because when I started working, I remember my first job was at Unilever as an intern, and I remember like impact projects was just something that someone else would do in the corner there, in marketing, kind of like more literally for marketing. So, and I see that this was what, in 2005, 2006.
Okay.
And I see that there was a progress already, it became a real project, real like business even, and so kind of like, I would like to see less, degen and more regen
totally,
still. But I think there's a progress already because it already changed a lot. And, and there's really interesting people trying to do a lot, like use this technology for really interesting things like natural capitals, or that's the thing that excites me the most.
Nice.
But because I talked to the guys from Silvi as well.
Amazing. You've had Sylvie Jimo on the show. Great. I really like what they're doing.
Yes, it's really cool. So you see a lot of stuff that being created and showing people that, hey, another way is possible, and this way is also you make money, and at the same time you make a better communities, environment, and you actually foster what needs to be fostered, not speculation and profit only.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept, this kind of framing of impact being associated to charity, because I think there is definitely an element of truth in that we need to make a voluntary commitment of time and energy and attention towards a different outcome other than just accumulating wealth for personal profits. And yet, it doesn't necessarily mean that money needs to go into a black hole and never be seen again, as can sometimes happen in the charity space. And I look at an organization like Celo with a very interesting eye, because I remember seeing them as I was building my initial list. I actually didn't know about positive blockchain. I was later into the space. And I was very interested in this idea of, money is beautiful. Mm-hmm. And actually, if we can design money with a new story, that a whole ecosystem of innovation can emerge from this, because money is culture, money is, expression. There's so much that goes into this, and our entire financial system, impinges upon this abstract exchange of value quantified by a dollar. And you obviously had a very interesting experience working at Celo in Berlin. I'm
Mm-hmm.
curious, what drew you to that organization? What was it like working on the inside? And what were some of the kind of key things that you learned, or things that you were excited about as you journeyed into Celo at the office in Berlin?
Yeah, this is quite interesting, because through positive blockchain, I started of course working with Celo, and then they're like, hey, do you want to do something together? Let's start doing working with Celo in Berlin and developing the community there. So it was really nice, because I really, really, really enjoy what Celo is trying to do, and is doing. And the people there are so amazing, in a sense that when I was there, you see that the people are really like, okay, how can we deploy this technology to really help communities, to give agency to communities, and also support other projects, and they are really about supporting, and they don't see us, when I was working there, is like, okay, how can we work together with different projects, you know, and then support them to thrive, and so it was Berlin was they have a really nice office there, so we used to do really nice events and bring so cool. people and all sorts of events also. So not only people, coming people to talk, but also, okay, what the project needs? Can you do a little workshop or a little hackathon or
Super
something
nice.
like that? And and it's a really decentralized global community that they're really enjoying. And I see, because as you said, normally when you go to this this blockchain conference is always the white bros, and then there you really see the diversity. There's people from everywhere.
Absolutely.
From all walks of life, and it's really, really nice and really interesting also.
And they're really committing capital towards that global ecosystem approach.
Exactly.
I really like the whole idea of regional DAOs for ecosystem development. Mm-hmm. And obviously now Luke and some of the folks spinning up Celo Europe DAO, and then Celo Latam, Celo India, Celo Africa. I think this cultural and geographic lens for ecosystem development is super interesting, because a lot of the other, I don't think anyone else in the blockchain space is doing this with such a strong geographic focus. And I think it'll be really interesting to see this sort of Celo stablecoin market continue to grow as more and more institutions recognize the power and the value of this, of incredibly cost-effective settlement, super fast transaction times, very, very low fees, and really witnessing how this can provide such a integral on-ramp to over 1.5 billion people around the world who don't have access to financial services or are underbanked.
And they're giving agency, as you said, for the locations, for the with the DAOs and everything else. I think it's great.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And I'd be curious, to just get your take on where you see the ecosystem now after everything that you've seen from Positive Blockchain. You've obviously been tracking the space with this database. Where are we now in ReFi? What point of the cycle are we? And what do you think are some of the kind of trends and key concepts that will take us forward to the next cycle?
I think we went from the basic, as I said, when you, the easy way to go, that it was, supply chain, or, how to make carbon credits. And I think that the good things that I saw is when there was a bull run, I think there was a lot of NFTs for impact, this and that and da. And then, the bear market came and cleaned it out the real projects. And I think that's where we are doing, where people are really building new ideas and new for preparing for what is coming. And I think that's one of the, as I said here, I think one of the most powerful ideas it is the natural capital. Like, how can we, different kinds of capital, how can we program different our values or different things into the money, into the tokens, and actually give value to things in real world assets. So, so I think that's the next stage is really like, how can we deploy this real world assets and program money and make it like mainstream and make it a way that different communities can tap into this, even though they are not directly connected to blockchain and stuff like that. So
the interface.
Exactly. So that's how I see the thing is going. I think that the market from carbon credits, I think it's gonna be a shake as well, because I think there's a lot of things that needs to be amended or done differently. But I think that's things that are moving there as well. I mean, there's so many things going on that in different ways, because I think that's one thing that important for people to know. It's like, it's not about credits or capitals, but then you have tracking, you have governance, community currencies. That it was like Positive Blockchain did a nice paper on community currency in Africa, for example, and how these really help develop communities socially and economically as well. And I start seeing more of this coming up. That is also one of the projects that I talked to, like Buddha, and then there's a big one in a community currency in Brazil as well.
Okay, I don't actually know that one.
Yeah. And they are all related to art, so people get from doing the work, or kind of like for the community, and then that's generate more. Anyway, so I think it's generate more tokens, and that they can use it within the community, and that gives this local empowerment or financially freedom as well. And I see this more happening, like more localized projects happening where they have their own token, their own money, in a sense that, and this money is embedded with their values, with the different kind of capitals. Could be like social capital, could be natural capital, could be any kind of capital.
Fascinating.
So I really hope to see that as well more.
It's kind of micro regenerative economies sprouting up as we have this toolkit for how to express what values in a community and create an economic container for value to flow. Makes me think a little bit about what grassroots economics and the folks at Good Dollar have been doing. Super keen to get them on the show. I'm curious to dive a little deeper into what you witnessed speaking to Jimo at Silvi. I was really blown away by how far he's gone at ReFi Week, seeing, he's effectively built a program, an application to track the entire forestry supply chain, from seedling all the way to tree maturation, and every step in the middle, to know exactly where it came from, who planted it and when, how the individual tree has been growing, and having this, species specific methodology, and really going so incredibly deep into this space. I mean, I was really, really impressed, and just curious what you observed and what you learned from talking to Jimo.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's I was also really blown away, also because it's a way of how can we use trees as a capital, a way of capital. And this was really interesting for me, and that I learned that it's not about it's not only about doing the things. I think it's like, I can track, we can see what kind of tree is it, who did it, how long it takes to mature, and but it's also creating a whole toolkit for people to also know and do it themselves, in a sense that they say, okay, if you want to do this, reforestation, so they give the tools also to know which kind of trees that should be there, and kind of like, I think this is also important, like knowledge sharing. That is something that I don't know if, I mean, of course, some people do that a lot, but it's something that I would like to see more. It's not about me against the world. It's all together,
Totally.
share the
we
knowledge.
need to learn how to plant trees in an effective way, biodiversity and cultural impact. Yeah.
And at the same time, giving incentive to them to kind of like to do it, and it's that's the main thing is like, how can I incentivize people? Can I teach people about things, about how to do things, but also incentivize them doing it? And I think that was the main idea, main thing that I really enjoyed seeing it.
Yeah, man, super, super cool. I know they've planted, well over 100, maybe even 200,000 trees in Kenya. It sounds like they're getting some like real traction there. And I feel like those kinds of projects where there's no money scheming anywhere to be found. It's just like raw value.
Exactly.
We need to plant trees in a biodiverse and context-specific way that honors both people involved and nature, and we need to do it at scale, and we need to do it with confidence. And I think he, having decided to move outside of the carbon space and really look at tree forwards as a financing mechanism, to me just inspires so much creativity around what's possible as these cycles emerge. I know he was also, I think he was a Climate Collective grant recipient, also through the Celo ecosystem, and really witnessing kind of the long tail required to really build up these markets for natural capital, because it really does require, an entirely different set of data and intelligence around the living systems of our earth that we depend upon, that our current financial system just doesn't know how to monitor, doesn't track. It's just not even on the balance sheet. There's no calculus for it. And so I think ReFi could actually play a very central role in the formation of these natural capital markets, where the rest of the space may really not see what's coming, but actually there could be a really strong swell.
Yeah. Could be like the start or the birth of a new economic system, if you think about it, because capitalism doesn't see natural resources as capital, right? So maybe we seen the birth of something new that's gonna help everyone and everything thrive, and not only like socially but economically and environmentally, all this, and more. You're gonna see a system that is more interconnected to the planet and to what we need and what people need, and not only people but everything needs.
Yeah, and it's an interesting description with natural capital as just one of 8 forms of capital.
Exactly.
Obviously, Gregory Landway and I think some permaculture group published that initial piece quite a while back. But really, nature as an asset seems to have captured a lot of our attention. And at the same time, it's starting to kind of force our own cognitive transition to see ourselves as a part of nature.
Yeah.
And recognizing that when we don't take humans and their needs into account as we're solving for natural capital, actually nature is more likely to be destroyed because humans need to survive.
Exactly.
And so there's this really fascinating kind of systemic entanglement that we're witnessing as we're trying to shift capitalism to recognize the value of nature. It's also forcing us to value people as a part of nature. And I think this is, the transition that is required to really see a regenerative economy take root in our society, such that it can actually grow and sustain the kind of scale required to function at a global level. And I think it's going to be an interesting cycle ahead.
Yeah, because I think that you tap into something very important. It's about like the human capital, like the social capital, or because I see also a lot of projects think, okay, let's like do reforestation, let's do regeneration of the land, but if you don't think about the human part of the project, even if you do it in 5 years, they'll be destroyed again. And that's why like Sylvie, like we're doing Kenya, it's not about only doing the project, but it's also incentivizing knowledge and kind of like integrating all the parts of it.
Totally.
Because there's one thing, for example, in Brazil, like I saw already different communities why can I not destroy this? Why this part of the land is protected? I need to survive. I need to give food to my family. I need to whatever.
True.
And so if you only preserve the thing but don't think about the people who are there or around there, or it
doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
Yeah,
exactly. It doesn't work. So it's something that's really important to think about. It's not only we are part of the ecosystem as well, right? And our society is part of the system as well. And then how can we, create a system of systems where everyone is thriving and everything is thriving, and so things are done for 7 generations up front, not only for 5 years or 2 years,
or even a quarter.
Yeah, exactly.
There's something that came to mind as you described this, where I sort of imagined you in advertising, which from my perspective, I've never worked in advertising, seems to be an intentional fabrication of desires that humans sometimes wouldn't normally have. It's like, here's this advertisement that will help you realize that you need this thing. To satisfy some internal need, go out and buy this object, in effect. And so much of culture, you listen to music and it's wild how much of this is just taunting thing holding. Yeah. It's just like, yo, I got this thing. Check out how cool I am. It's like human culture has been so incredibly affected and saturated by this economic model driven by attention. You need thing, you buy thing, you feel better, you show it off to other people, and then they want the same thing, and then you feel good about yourself. And it's like, I wonder what's happening as this natural capital economy emerges from the grassroots, where we can actually really rest in knowing how much we need nature. Yeah. And how much a part of ourselves it is, and to really, if we want to be boastful, if that's just like a core part of human need, to be boastful about how beautiful, the nature that we've generated is, and how much fruit and prosperity this is giving for the world around us. And, it's going to be an interesting thing to see how the rest of these markets emerge as we have less needs that need to be satisfied by, external fulfillment.
Absolutely. I mean, advertising is mainly, I remember I was working in strategic planning. So I was the one actually doing the research, listening to people and saying, okay, how can we tap into what they need, their persona, and sell something to them, connect what we need to sell to what they need, and then just change the kind of like what I think Meta or Facebook do it, but more darker. I think.
Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? But one thing that is interesting, because I also part of a group now, or helping, called Regenerative Marketing Committee.
Okay, interesting.
They're still building, so it's a group of people. They're being invited. I think the people who from Zebra Growth started.
Oh, nice.
Mo and cool. Lee, and the idea is how can we make marketing or advertising, or this area. So like a lot of marketeers working on how can we can make this area, or this tool. Let's put it's a tool to actually help the projects, or help the world. Not only it's not about selling stuff that you don't need and distractive, but it's like how can we develop tools and frameworks and messaging that could help the regenerative movement.
Oh, nice.
And sell it to companies as well. Like, hey, you don't need to
apply these tactics anymore.
Add more. You can do this way. You can do that way.
Nice. Alternative models. So
exactly.
Cool.
So that's something they're being working on, and create a whole framework and stuff. They're probably going to launch in April or something.
Oh man,
that's
really excited. Local scene.
Yeah.
And I'm curious to get your take on ReFi Lisboa. You've obviously stepped up as a leader and been a core part of this community really from the beginning. I think you were probably the first person I talked to about it.
I think so.
And you were so excited. You obviously had this intuition of moving from Berlin to Lisbon, and you were just so on fire and on board. I'd be curious, to get an overview of what it's been like for you building this community, meeting every single month, raising sponsorship, gathering folks. What have you seen? What have you witnessed? What's been a challenge?
Yeah, ReFi Lisboa was really cool, because I was living in Berlin, and we talk about it, and I started coming here every month only for that.
Oh my gosh, yes. I didn't realize. That's so fun.
And I was like, okay, I have to move to Lisbon. That's where my heart is now.
Yeah, so cool.
True. And it was really a good, Portugal, has so many projects in regeneration, and I think that having a community where we can bring these folks together, and because also one thing that I realize is there's a lot of silos in a sense, that there's a lot of projects doing the same thing, like inventing the wheel, instead of hey, let's help each other, and so this building this community is being quite cool and very welcoming. I think of course starting a new community, so it's difficult to to get people to get in. Also, one thing that I realize is also difficult to because some people from the Web3 space or they're doing really interesting projects, they don't like the Kumbaya part of the ReFi. So it's managing this that's being also challenging, I think, and we are trying to create ways of people who they don't like to do breath work or they don't like to meditate or whatever. They even though they don't need to do it and they feel welcome,
totally.
and then we can also have more tech related stuff that that it's more these people that are more like developers or whatever that they want to know more what is being developed in this area.
100%.
So that's what like being working with Emily, Suzanne, and Lara also on how we can tackle into these things as well. Like how can we make different kind of events for different kind of people, but they're all part of the same community.
All part of the same, yeah. And when their community is a bridge,
exactly.
It's quite an intricate type of community building, taking the hardcore Web3 tech financialization and also the inner and outer regeneration, which hold sometimes very different values and perspectives, and there's lots of overlap, but to bring them together and make a safe space and to create an environment where innovation and experimentation can grow.
Yeah. And it's great because there's also people who don't know ReFi and they come to see what ReFi is about, and they get really like, oh, that's so cool. I didn't know what it means. ReFi is like regenerative finance, and so it's also being very rewarding in a sense that because we are onboarding people into it as well, and then we work with Celo, we work with ISP, we work with different kinds of CV labs, Polygon. We work with so many different kind of people in the space that it's and the interesting thing is that all these different projects in ReFi, they all want us to work together. So they're really happy to be together in the same event, and talk to each other and see what they are doing and kind of like, so it's very, there is not this me against the world kind of mindset that I like. It's more like it's together space for everyone, and let's do this together, each one focusing in their own thing,
sharing knowledge
and stuff for that. So that's being very, very nice. We're gonna have like a Christmas
can't wait, man.
Web3 Christmas party that is not only about ReFi, but we are trying to bring all the Web3 community in Lisbon together.
So nice.
Also, it's kind of like just being cool. That's really, really cool.
And I think there's this interesting part around experiencing the community in the flesh. Like so much of Web3 is online and abstracted, but it also has this great ability to gather in person.
Yeah.
And I think there's something interesting about these local communities that are meeting regularly, developing really deep known relationships of trust, especially in this bear market where capital is less accessible and times are hard and people are struggling to make ends meet, and you can really build up social capital to support you through these transitions, and to know that actually, hey, in a time of need, somebody's got your back,
absolutely.
and you're not alone. And I think that it's a really important beacon of the character of this movement, that people are there to support each other on the ground, whether you're in Costa Rica or whether you're in Colombia or whether you're in Portugal or in Berlin, that there's a ReFi community meeting and it's a place where you can belong, whatever side of the equation you're on, the regen or more on the tech part. Obviously, the Web3 movement is incredibly volatile and quite intense. I'm curious how it's been for you personally in this journey, going through so many different projects, so many different experiences, so many different places. Like, what have been, I guess, some of the personal highlights and some of the personal challenges, and how have you navigated this, this culture and experience so far?
Yeah. I'm not a degen, or I'm not there to, since the beginning, I never been into the space to make a lot of money or, to speculate or get like tokens. So that's really hard because I feel I get hit a lot by the market, how it goes, because, when there's money, there's projects and money is flowing. When there's not, it's kind of a little bit harder for me because I don't have thousands of Bitcoins,
You don't?
I don't.
What?
I don't. Maybe I was a bit naive because I was being focusing on the impact part and then, not really thinking on how can I get rich with it, which, it's fine.
Or your heart was just in the right place.
Yeah, maybe. But I think so I've been to a couple of waves already, and I had to. And one thing that I realized is that the connection that I do sometimes with Web 2 to Web 3 was the most rewarding, or not rewarding, but the most stable one for me, like in the space, like how can I, bridge these two worlds together? Because also, you always say also, like, we are not still in Web 3, we're like Web 2.5, like something like that. And I think it's the highlights I had, like, so I work, so in 2018, I worked for a climate tech, how to tokenize carbon and da-da-da-da. So that was the big thing back then, when to talk in Paris, etc., etc. Then I went the NFT craze, and I was working for also Impact NFT, not agency, kind of like an agency, like a creator agency, which was nice, And then so I saw all these
waves,
all these waves, and really like focusing now on location for me, like regenerative location. Have some ideas now also here in Portugal from affordable housing, regenerative affordable housing, and regenerative tourism, and kind of like in the idea space still on how to do this work and create and implement this, what we said, like social capital, natural capital, all this kind of stuff in this part of projects as well. So that's being my my highlight for now, I think. But I think it's Web3 space. It's a bumpy space because it's, as I said, it's very volatile. Depends of which wave we are in.
Yeah, and how you play your cards, and what your intentions are.
Exactly. Yeah, totally. So, for example, when I saw the NFT thing, that was super crazy. I saw so many people working. Everybody, oh my god, I want to be NFT. As soon as the market crashed a little bit, like everybody disappeared and everybody moved on. While I saw the people that kept doing stuff. No, I believe in this. It's not because AI now is a big word now that I'm gonna shift. Because I saw a lot of people. The people normally shift from the buzzword of the moment. And I see that these people that actually did the work, even they were not making a lot of money. If there was harder to get investment or have people on board. I can see that the projects are being deployed or the projects are growing, and I can see that will like when the market grows up again, that's the people who get the money. That's the people that actually can scale what they are doing, and I'm really glad they will, because that's the people who really doing things for the better of the space, I guess.
Yeah, man. And I'd be curious, coming to the end of our time here, to hear a little bit about what you're doing now. Obviously, at Time Left, you've had a different palette of experiences. And I think there's quite a lot of people who've been contemplating openly, like, hey, there's a lot less opportunities, a lot less jobs in ReFi right now. Like, is it a bad thing to just get a job outside of this space? And it's like, actually, you know what? Get a job somewhere where you're doing good work and getting good experiences. These things do happen in waves, and it's a lot about timing. So curious what that was like for you, making that transition, what you're doing now, and what kind of good you're finding from it.
So I'm working also in Time Left, and it was something that really because it's, I try to always work with things that are some sort of a social and environmental impact. That's something that is meaningful for me, because I realize that if I don't work on something like that, I tend to get bored or annoyed very quickly, and they are fighting loneliness in big cities. So that's what they do, and they bring strangers together. So like dinner. So they have like more than 400. No, if all the cities is more like 700 people per Wednesday.
Every Wednesday,
yes,
700
in
people
different cities.
That's
so
cool.
They are like Lisbon, Porto, Paris, Marseille. And they're going to be also in London soon.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah. And it's, as you said, it is like, sometimes, when the money is not there, that's what I say, the bridge between Web 2 and Web 3, how can, do this thing? And I think it's, because, Web 3 is something that I really like. And so even though I have other job now that I'm working also with Time Left, I also, I'm still, very active in ReFi Lisboa, even though it's not like my money-making job, positive blockchain. So for me, it's always important to, you do what you have to do,
Yeah.
You know, and then but you don't let your goals or your passions aside. I think it's very important to make sure that that you do what you have to do, but at the same time you focus, or you not focus, you invest in your passion, you invest in your dreams and in what you want for yourself, for the world, and for life, I guess.
Beautiful, man. It's been amazing witnessing you juggle all these different moving parts, from a new full-time job to starting a new podcast to still pushing forward in a position of leadership at ReFi Lisboa, doing monthly events. Like you have a huge capacity. Just moved to Lisbon. Like mad respect for you, Rica, and doing it with a smile and joy. I remember the first ReFi Lisboa event. I was laughing to the point of tears so many times with you. I just couldn't figure out why. I was like, who are you and why are you giving me so much joy? And like, what is so good about this moment? I don't know. You're just beautiful. So thanks, man, for coming on the show today. I'm curious, where can people learn more about you? Where can people tune into the show?
Yes. So there is we have Instagram, Twitter from the podcast, and I think that's Linktree/Planta_R.
Yep.
So that's very easy to get all the links there.
Cool.
Our shows go every 2 weeks on a Thursday, so people can expect to get something every second Thursday. And one thing that I want to say is for people about the podcast is please listen to it, share with people, give a like, but also we have really nice, because we were saying, the Web3 space is really like white bros. So I'm really like, most of my guests are women, women of color, so cool. From different backgrounds. So it's very interesting.
Yes. It's the future. I really do think that regenerative leadership looks very different than leadership of the past. And I think there have been so many systemic imbalances created as a disproportionate representation of people at the table who really have their hearts in the right place and really have the grit and perseverance and determination to carry us through these challenges. So thanks so much, man. And also people can follow you on Twitter at Rica with 2 A's, yeah?
Yes, that's true. I'm promoting the podcast. So RICAA.
Amazing.
You have to normally put the @ before, because I don't know, you cannot find me if you don't put the @ before. I don't know why.
Twitter games.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Well, hey, this has been an honor. So much love to you. I can't wait to see the show continue to grow and evolve. And it looks freaking great, man. The guys at Barrow Up have been playing their A game. And for some reason, hearing you speak Portuguese is just like, yes, this is so home for you. And I don't really know what you're saying, but I'm glad those little captions on YouTube are translating to English for me.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for having me. It was really nice. Really nice always to spend time with you and talk to you, man.
Awesome, bro. We'll see you soon.
Yes, thank you.
Ciao. Thanks so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the show. I would be so incredibly grateful if you could leave us a 5-star review wherever you listen to your podcast. This helps us reach more listeners, attract amazing guests, and ultimately get the story of Regeneration out to a wider audience. It takes just a couple seconds and makes a massive difference. Thanks so much, and do let us know if there's any guests that you'd love to hear from. We'd be very grateful to hear from you. Thanks.